Test.
Test.
Hello? Hello? Are you there?
Is anyone there?
Are you there?
Hello?
Oh, hi.
Oh.
It's you.
Hey.
Oh, hi. I'm Colby Dezelick.
And I'm Kevin Corkum.
And you're listening to the third podcast of ours that still has yet to be named.
Yeah, Untitled.
Untitled, the podcast. Untitled, question mark.
Getting to know us.
Getting to know us. I think this is our best intro yet so far.
Yeah, definitely. We're nailing it.
So far on the podcast, I think we touched on it a little bit last time, but we're going to try and do like this first season, and maybe it's like 10 or so episodes, where we're just going to do a kind of getting to know you thing. And so our first one, we just kind of gave a very general overview of where we're at right now in NYC. Then the last podcast, the second one, was all about our college experience, and now we're just kind of traveling even further back in time. And we're going to talk about some of our experiences as younger children, adults, middle school, high school, or even before that, and just talk about like our experience of how we kind of got into the arts. And specifically, we're going to kind of touch on acting, singing, and dancing, and like our experiences in that. So for people that are younger viewers that are in that age, and also people that are kind of there now and can kind of compare their experiences to us and where we came from, and maybe what you feel like you could supplement, or what you know you're doing way better than us already at, because there are a lot of gaps that we had that college helped fill in. But I think this is an interesting topic because it's just you can learn things so quickly as a child, you know, and the people that are really good at something normally have a kind of knack for it as a kid, and hopefully parents see that and then they just kind of latch on to that. That's why I feel like that's why so many kids are put in so many different activities. They're like, try this, and then
as a kid,
like,
you're a huge sponge. So everything you learn, you're just absorbing and molding into kind of what you want it to be or what you don't want it to be.
It's true. And so like it's so great for kids that like kind of notice that they have a knack for something early on, because it's like investing. Like the sooner you invest money in something, the greater your return is, simply because of the what is it called? Compounding and compound interest. That's what I'm looking for. And so I think it's an interesting viewpoint to talk about. A lot of people don't, I think, touch on like their childhood, which is super influential to who you are as an adult. You know, you think it starts with just like college or anything like that. Anyway, I'm just rambling on about how I'm interested in this topic, and let's take it away. Kevin, how did you get into any sort of arts or anything like that? Not even just like dance or anything like that.
It's a funny story. My brother I played sports as a kid. That's what I did. I was really into sports. I played soccer and basketball and baseball. A lot more soccer and basketball than anything else. But my brother, when he was young, I think I was probably 4th grade. My brother did a production of Seussical the Musical. And
Seussical the Musical.
It was fantastic. From what I remember, it's not at all the tune. But I sat in the audience and I saw my brother, and he was one of the the townspeople or whatever. And I just sat in the audience and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." I was like, this looks so fun. The music was really good. I couldn't stop listening to the soundtrack. I do it in secret, though. I didn't want people to know that I liked it.
Obviously.
So, like, my brother would listen to it in the other room, and I'd be like, oh, Brian, turn that off. But really what I wanted him to do is play it a little bit louder. And so I kind of owe it to my brother, actually. And so he started doing that, and then we moved down to Florida. And there was a little community playhouse called the St. Lucie Community Theater, or the Pineapple Playhouse. And I did a play there. I was the big bad wolf.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's video footage somewhere.
You gotta find that.
Yeah, with some of my friends some people who I'm still friends with to this day. Christy Mills, shout out to Christy. She was Little Red or something like that. And I just got the bug, and I was still playing soccer at the same time. So it was really kind of hard for me to prioritize what I wanted to do. I was... I played soccer all year round. I played winter, summer, every season I was playing. So I kind of had to start to split time between acting and doing that. And at the time, I wasn't really singing and I wasn't really dancing. But my mother found out that I was really liking this acting thing. And she says, well, if you want to be serious, you have to start to sing. And I said, there's no way I'm going to start singing. but I started singing.
There you go.
I started taking voice lessons. I can't remember the name of my teacher, Linda something.
Linda something. She's the best.
Oh man,
taught me everything.
embarrassing. I can't remember the name. It was a long time ago. I didn't take with her for too long, but it just kind of got my feet wet. And
that's so interesting. I never realized that you started acting and singing before you started dancing.
Yeah, dance was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. It was
so
the most important piece of the puzzle. I'll get there. But it was definitely the last piece. I started acting first.
How old were you when you said, or
6th grade when I did my first play?
Really? So you were. So how old were you when you saw Seussical?
I was
when
in
Brian
4th grade.
did it. Really?
Yeah.
And
so there was about
he's
a
2
year
years
gap.
younger than you. So he was
Yeah.
in he was in 2nd grade.
Oh, he was a little tot.
They were
yeah.
doing Seussical.
Yeah.
It was probably the junior version, right?
I don't remember. I think it
I
was
guess
a
it
high school
doesn't- it
production,
doesn't need
but
to
he
be.
was just a little. He was like one of the little kids.
Was it like a summer thing or?
Yeah, I think it was probably a summer thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. That's crazy.
It is pretty crazy. And I went a year without doing it, and he did another show. I don't know what it was, some pirate themed show. And I saw that. I don't know whether he did that one
best.
first and Seussical was second, but I definitely like Seussical more. And to this day, it's still one of my
That's
favorite
funny.
shows. Such great heart and character in that
Oh, yeah.
show. But I kind of started doing that, and then we started doing plays together, and I slowly got to a point where it was around my freshman year of high school. I was going to a Christian high school in Jupiter, and I really got the bug. I really wanted to do this. So I auditioned for the Dreyfus School of the Arts down in West Palm Beach. And I got accepted, which was huge. But there was another high school in town, Port St. Lucie High School. West Palm Beach was about 45 minutes from where I lived. So we would have had to kind of relocate and things like that. Port St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie High School we had to relocate for, but that's because of the weird zoning laws. I digress. So I got into Dreyfus, but I really didn't want to have to commute every day down to West Palm Beach. So I convinced my parents to let me go to Port St. Lucie High School, which we had to move for. My parents were fantastic. Thank you guys for moving. It really was a huge thing. And we were taking a big risk. The high school doesn't have the best, I got a great education, but it doesn't have the best reputation in town. But the arts are fantastic there. And that is another reason I started dance classes, and this is a pretty funny story. I walked into South Florida Dance Company, shout out. They're fantastic. I'm going to talk about them a lot. Brian Spector and Bonnie Spector run the studio. Brian Spector is one of my good friends. He's absolutely fantastic. Great teacher, great person. I walk in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a jazz class, because I figured, that's I could do jazz.
Standard.
Yes.
Standard.
Terrible. So I walk in, and Bonnie's working the front desk, and this is back when the studio was very small. We only had one dance. There was only one dance studio, handful of teachers, and I walk in and I said, my mom talked to Spector on the phone, and I'm gonna call him Spector from now on. We're talking about Brian Spector. And she talked to him on the phone, and he's like, yeah, sure, bring him in, because there were several guys who were dancing at the studio at the time. Andrew Clemens, Brandon Block, one of my good friends, and Brandon, yeah, Brandon, you should know Brandon. So he, I walk in and I see them, and I walk in and they're taking a ballet class, and we had a very strict dress code. You had to wear tights and certain things. So I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that, so I'll just do jazz. I didn't have a choice.
Yes,
I walked
honestly.
in, and Bonnie was like, okay, so you want to take jazz, but you can't take jazz unless you're taking ballet. And she's like, here are some tights. Go try them on. Here's a dance belt. I was like, what is all of this?
Happening?
Like, what is this?
That's so funny.
And ever since that day, I just fell in love with dancing. And that's...
How old are you there?
I was
Just trying to build a
going
timeline.
into... that was my summer of my freshman year. Like, it was right at the end of my freshman year. So I started taking jazz, like, I want to say probably around this time, my freshman year of high school. And then I took like a summer dance intensive before I started going to the high school, because I was transitioning.
I feel like that's a good time for a lot of guys.
Well, something that Spector always said is he said that guys pick up dancing a lot quicker than girls do.
Sure, yeah.
Because guys, it has nothing to do with the physicality or anything. I mean, that helps a little bit, but it mainly has to do with guys' ability to not compare themselves right off the bat to other people.
Sure,
and just
because
kind
there's
of
no
work on
comparison.
themselves.
Yeah.
Girls have a harder time, I think, comparing themselves to others and things like that. So
Maybe.
I would go in and I was horrible. I mean, I was really, really bad, and they just built me up from nothing into being a dancer. And I owe that studio and Spector everything because I was dancing. From then on out, we had 2-hour ballet classes 3 days a week, and then I was taking an hour and a half of jazz and an hour and a half of contemporary dance, on top of dancing at my high school, because my high school had a dance department, and I was dancing 2 hours a day in high school. So I was dancing
crazy.
on any given day, and this is before adding rehearsals for musicals and dance shows.
Yeah.
I was already dancing for at least 4 hours a day. And that's kind
nuts.
of, I
That's a
didn't
crash
think,
course.
I didn't think about it at the time, because at the time you just
do it.
You know,
Yeah.
you're loving it, you're doing it, you're with your friends, you're doing this. I was dancing for hours and hours a day.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was so fun. I met amazing people, and I learned a lot through that. And my training was very based in ballet. So, you know, the technique, we would harp on technique over and over and over again to prevent injuries and build your body. And I was in fantastic shape at the time, just because, I mean, you
Ballet
know,
will do
6
that.
hours of ballet a week will do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I started into dance. And I know you started with dance probably first, right?
I did. Well, even before that, I took gymnastics.
Gymnastics.
My parents threw me into gymnastics when I was like 18 months old.
Wow.
I was literally like in the toddler tumbles or something like that. I just made that name up, but it was probably something like that. And they just like, it was probably just like daycare, except we rolled around a lot.
Right.
But no, so I did that. I did gymnastics for a really long time, up until like probably into middle school, and then like around then it petered out. But I digress. But that kind of started me on my movement journey.
Yes.
If Mead Andrews is listening.
I made.
But no, I started dancing first, and I literally have the exact story from basically Course Line of Mike, which was that my sister was taking dance classes, my older sister, and we were at a studio called Rhythm Street down the road.
Rhythm Street.
And it was actually in the same complex where I took gymnastics, funny enough. And so she was like across the street, or maybe they moved there eventually. I don't know. The details are fuzzy. But because I was 7 when I started dancing. It's probably because of that I don't remember the details very well. But I saw her dancing. I was like, that looks like fun. There's like a picture of me in like a velvet vest and like tap shoes, like
the dance recital costumes.
The
are
dance
best.
recital costumes in like our old house. But yeah, I was like, oh, that's fun. And then from then I was just like, that's really fun. And I think they also saw like because I guess I was already coordinated from gymnastics a little bit, and they were like, oh, this kid has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Not that I was like good on the first try, but it was a studio that had 0 boys. You know,
every studio is looking for boys.
Yeah. I don't remember. Rhythm Street. I'm sure there were probably none. I'm gonna go with none. But so I was really young when I started dancing, and I kind of went in it the reverse way. So I started dancing, and then I was at Rhythm Street for a while, and then eventually I went to Encore Performers. Huge shout out to Encore. I owe so much of everything to Encore and ETAP and Raynor and Mario, who own the studio. They're amazing. But eventually I went to Encore Theatrical Arts Project, ETAP. And there is where I started doing like musical theater dance. So, I mean, at Rhythm Street, I did like jazz and tap and like things like that. And I did some musical theater-y stuff. There were like summer program camps. I don't remember which one I did first because I get them all mixed up again because I have a terrible timeline of my childhood. But I'm like, when did you go to high school? I was like, when I was 7. I don't know. But I did like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas. And I played the Grinch and I lip sync to that. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. And I wore a green unitard as in the classic Colby fashion, as only you can imagine it.
Full
My face was painted. I played the lion in the junior production of The Wizard of Oz. And one of my best roles was Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 2. Not the first one. Toy Story 2. Yeah. No, I remember that, and we did it like in the studio. It was like for the parents essentially. It wasn't like a big thing. But no, I mean, I think I was always very theatrical as a kid. I was always very shy, but I was very theatrical. Like if I was up on stage, loved it. Yeah. But getting me onto the stage, terrifying. My first voice lesson, this is kind of a side note, but my first voice lesson was at a retirement home. Like all the people that were there are probably long gone now. That's so sad. But anyway, but so morbid. I'm so sorry. But we were doing the voice recital there. It was my first voice teacher. I don't remember, but it was my first voice recital, and all these people went, and I was like, again, I think I was like the only boy in the studio probably, and I was gonna sing "Where Is Love" from Oliver. Nice. There's a video somewhere. It's that video that we played that one time.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was my time to go, and I freaked out. I could not get on stage, and I was sobbing behind like some weird hallway that had an elevator, and my parents and my voice teacher was like, Colby, you have to do it. You have to do it. Like get on stage. And I was like, no, I can't. And then and then they were like, all right, Colby's not feeling well, and so. But then at the end of
diarrhea.
Got diarrhea, probably. I'm sure that's what happened. That's still what happens to me when I'm nervous for things. But eventually, then at the end of the show, I was like, okay, I think I can do it. And they were like, all right, well, actually, they were like about to end the show. They were like, we actually have a special guest. Colby's feeling a little bit better, and he's going to come out and sing for you. Got out there, sang my song, sang another song, and then did a full magic show because I brought my magic equipment with me because I also did magic shows as a kid. Anyway, where were we? I'm 7 and I'm at Encore now, and so that's where I started doing musical theater dance. And so when I was at Encore, they did recitals, but they also did like shows. So they did a Christmas show and a spring show, and the Christmas show was like the big one, or the holiday show now, I guess it is. But it was like always at the North Pole with Santa's elves and stuff like that. And so one year they were like, Colby, do you want to play one of the elves in the show? And I was like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. I was like, like some 4 foot tall little boy with spiky hair that danced. And yeah, it was a dream come true. And I rode in on Santa's sleigh. It was my first entrance. And my first line ever was, freeze, dirt bags. I've like played some naughty elf or something like that. And it was so fun. And so it was me and this other girl, and we were like younger. And then this older couple that did all the shows. I think they still do the shows. Tina and Dan Delafield. And they were great. And I learned so much from like working with them and like just like doing those shows. Because I got to like dance in the shows too. But like I got scenes and stuff too. And it was so fun. And so year after year I would play different versions of elves and Santa's long estranged son and things like that. And so then I was like, theater, like this is where I need to be. Yeah. Because I loved dancing on stage and being on stage, and obviously I still love dancing, but playing a character and all that stuff was when I was like, oh yeah. So I kind of fell into it backwards, and so I started acting, and then eventually, like, because I was doing that, they were like, hey, you should like be able to sing songs in the show too, because you're a little boy and it'd be adorable if you did that. And I was like, okay. And then took with that first voice teacher and got over my fear of magic shows and old people, and then eventually went through a couple voice teachers and started going that way. We can talk more about that, but that's kind of how I fell into it. And then as I got older, when I got to high school, I started doing like the shows at my high school, and I stopped dancing as much at the studio. and just focused more on doing musicals, like actual musicals, not Christmas shows.
Yeah. That's funny because I did something similar in the fact where that instead of kind of diving more into the musicals, I really kind of dove into dance.
Yeah. It's almost flipped.
Flipped. I mean, I really I was doing all kinds of things with the studio and through the high school, and I did musicals as well. I mean, I would do both the fall and the summer musicals, which I loved and adored. But I danced in those. I was in the ensemble. I had a couple parts. I did like Corny Collins or something my senior year of high school, which was really fun. Fietka and Fiddler. I had the a great role.
Us and Matt Fairley, right?
Matt Fairley, yeah.
Are the Fietka brothers.
Yeah.
So funny.
So I did the musicals as well, but where my heart was kind of leading me at the time was dance, because I was surrounded by it. Obviously, I was dancing 4 hours at least a day.
Yeah.
And when we had dance show rehearsals for the high school, we had 4-hour rehearsals at night. So I was dancing almost 8 hours a day.
So let's just hit on all of these. So for dance, which is kind of obviously a big one for both of us, what would you say was like the most important thing you got out of dance or learned whilst you were dancing, and how that has influenced where you are now? And
I would say the biggest thing I learned was how to tell a story through dance. Technique, obviously super important. Get to a studio where you're really learning great ballet technique. But the next level of that is really being able to tell a story, show emotion, take the audience with you. And since you're not using words, so you don't necessarily have that as a avenue for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to tell the audience how you're feeling, what you're thinking through dance, and through really connecting with your body. And that's what I learned. And Brian Spector was, the king of that. I mean, he dances and you can't help but know exactly what he's feeling and the emotion that he has. So through great teachers like him and Tasha and Camillo and all these people who just kind of really took me under their wing, and all the students really under their wings, and just helped them thrive.
That's great.
And taught them how to dance and more importantly, how to be yourself and portray something through dance. I think is super important.
That's great. That's a huge part of it. Especially when you go to calls now, a lot of times, for me now, I have a very long and full dance background, and so I feel very comfortable when I go to a dance call. But a lot of times, you won't do a quarter of your abilities
right
in a dance call, because most of the time, I mean, it depends on the show. If you're going in for a dance show, you're going to do some stuff and whatnot. But even then, but more so, you're going to go in for a show where you need to move, and there's a very specific style of choreography in that show. I'm sure we could think of a million, but most of the time, the choreographer is going to want to see you be a character,
right?
And so what you said, being able to tell a story through movement, is so important, and that's why, I mean, even a lot of the really, really great trained dancers can't do musical theater so much, because it's a completely different kind of style and approach almost.
Exactly.
Obviously, musical theater has its very own specific style of dance, but understanding very thoroughly how to use your body as a dancer and also as a character and a storyteller and everything like that is a huge component of dance.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you can kick your face and do 9 turns and all that stuff, and it's all so impressive, and really, really great. However, if you can't take the audience with you on a journey emotionally, it's going to turn into just very pretty dancing, which is fantastic. If that's what you like and want to do, absolutely.
And there's totally a place for that, too.
Yeah, I mean, competition is a big thing.
Oh, yeah, concert dance and everything.
Concert dance, big,
Crazy. I could never do what those people do.
Yeah, no, me
that
either.
Stuff is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're trained so well.
Yeah.
But for musical theater specifically, I think it is extremely important to be able to tell a story and create a character and a backstory and all those things in a very short amount of time, given the vocabulary of choreography that you've been handed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is something that really is invaluable.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
I think that dance is a big reason that I got into most of the colleges that I did.
Sure.
Was never the best singer
Yeah.
before college. You know, I was a decent actor, but really the thing that set me apart was I could dance, and I could dance well.
Dance is huge. And again, like looking at how that relates to like the industry today. And it's always obviously ever changing, but dance is one of those things that like if you can dance, your skill set matches the entry level jobs very well.
Right.
Because when you're first starting out, a lot of times if you're an actor singer, unless you have a very specific type, the market's going to be oversaturated, and as someone that has little to no credits, you're not going to be able to just jump into like a big production as an actor-singer track, because those tracks are the leads and the principals and everything like that. But as a dancer, you can kind of work with few credits and just be a great dancer and fit into the ensemble
And network.
and network and bust open. And that's what I've been able to do, you know, working at the Muni. That was my first ever like professional job.
Freshman year.
It was,
I mean, it was a big deal when you booked the Muni. The Muni is for those of you who don't know, is a staple summer theater. I mean, they do it, and they do it big, and they do it right.
It's the largest outdoor theater in the country. Or at least one of them. No, I think the Hollywood Bowl is bigger.
Okay.
But it's definitely one of the largest, and it's one of the oldest. It's celebrating its 100th season this year. I'm actually about to go out and do the gala. They're doing a centennial thing or whatever. They're like celebrating 100 years of Muni. Anyway, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But literally, honestly,
I remember freshman year you booked West Side Story and what was the other? Spam-A-Lot. I mean, it was big news. I mean, it was a really, really big deal.
It was crazy, and I would not have been able to do that without the dance training I had prior to college.
Exactly.
Because I wouldn't have learned enough freshman year in college to be able to do what I did. It was solely on the fact that I had so much training previously at studios like Encore, you know?
Yeah.
So like when I went to a call like that was a dancer call, you know, like they weren't going to look at me for Tony. You know, now I can I know people, and obviously I can actually sing now and things like that, but I can go in for Tony. But like I was never going to go in for Tony. I played Diesel, probably because I'm 6 foot, and most of the guys that do West Side are, you know, 5'2", just because like most dancers are built like that. But it gave me an entryway, and the choreographer I worked with, Chris Bailey, who did West Side, I worked with a couple weeks ago, literally, and I worked with him every summer I was there, and I still get calls from him and his wife, who does a ton of choreography too. And I mean, it's been absolutely invaluable.
The moral of the story is if you have an opportunity to dance, especially if you're a male, get into class. Get into class. And you know what?
Certainly if you're young.
Yeah, and you're not going to be good at first. You know? Yeah. I mean, I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I really, really couldn't. It was laughable. But if you stick with it and you work hard and you show up to class, that's the big thing. Show up to class. Because a lot of people, you know, they'll take the dance classes, do this, but they'll go every once in a while. You got to show up, and you got to put in the work. And you know what? It pays off.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say with what I learned so much from dancing at a young age was a kind of structure and discipline. Yes. I think that was the biggest thing, is that it just I learned so much about work ethic and how to work with a team and everything like that. Because it's funny when you I teach a lot of like workshops, or I do like other like high school theater things. I go back and like choreograph or something like that for people. And a lot of the kids that are like there to like act and sing, you want them to be crazy and spontaneous and like these outlandish kind of kids, and that's great, and it's so important to cultivate that side of yourself as a performer, certainly when you're really young like that. And I had great theater teachers, obviously, that were able to pull that out of me, you know, because you want to make bold choices and you want to, you know, go for it and, you know, be big and bold and fail and everything like that. But when you're a dancer, like it's just a completely different mindset and approach to the process of creating stage work, you know, because as a dancer, you have to, you know, hit your marks. You have to be aware of the other people in your
You have to dance as one.
Yeah, you're thinking about formations, you're thinking about angles, you have to point. There's so much technique and all this stuff, and it's crazy, and you have to perform and all this stuff. And it's just completely different almost.
It is.
You know, and maybe more like formal singers are kind of like that too. I think because there's so much technique and everything in there, but like to go from dancing and acting are very very different approaches. Like if you were like looking at two young kids and one was like the crazy wild one, everything like that. Oh, she should be on stage acting, you know, and the other one was like, you know, very quiet and practice like very meticulously in her bedroom. You're like, oh, she should be in dance class.
Right.
She would, you know, flower that way, you know, and it's just, they're just completely different, you know? And obviously if you want to do musical theater, you have to cultivate both. But for me as a kid that went into dance first, I got such a great foundation of discipline. And I think it's why I'm able to have such a strong work ethic now, is because it's just like ingrained in my brain. It's like, oh, you just have to do it.
Right. And you're also given a whole lot of responsibility that you don't necessarily understand. Like, I'm lifting girls above my head. Like, we're doing all of these complicated things. I'm literally holding someone's life in my hands. At the time, you're not necessarily thinking about that. I mean, you're sure, like, it might be going on in the back of your head. You're like, oh, this is so cool. You know, I can love this person. But you really have a huge amount of responsibility. And it causes you to really step your game up.
Yeah, that's true. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing I was gonna say that I got was versatility.
Yes.
Out of certainly the training that I personally got, because when I went to Rhythm Street, I did pretty much just jazz, right? And so I was very comfortable in jazz and just like, you know, the basic stuff. I went to Encore, and it was a crazy wide array of stuff. You know, I still did jazz and musical theater jazz. But then, like, even just, like, different versions of jazz, like Fosse and, you know, more hip-hop jazz. You know, but then I took tap, and I took hip-hop. I took ballet. I took lyrical. God, not my strength. not where I live. But, you know, I did, and modern and, like, different things like that. And forcing yourself to, like, move in different ways, it's just stretching yourself so much. And so now when I go to calls, like, stuff doesn't throw me. Like, I can do a hip-hop routine, which is, thank God I took so many hip-hop classes. I just thought it was cool at the time when I was taking it. I helped out with all the, like, hip-hop summer camps or whatever. They made, like, music videos and stuff for the kids that came in. I edited all of them, of course. But crazy. Digress. But now, like, in the market, like, there's such a huge, I guess, need for people that can do that can dance hip-hop and do musical theater. And it's just, the more versatile you are, the better. We said we were going to talk about this on a podcast, type versatility. That's another side note. But versatility is huge, and I think dance gives you that.
I agree.
Even just being able to, any sort of dance, especially if you are an actor-singer, if you can then go in and dance, versatile in that way in musical theater.
Right.
You know? And, that's
so talk a little bit about your vocal experience through high school and middle school.
So after my rave reviews at the retirement home, my first, I'm pretty sure that was with my first voice teacher, Loretta Giles, and I took voice lessons with her and some very basic piano lessons too, actually, now that I'm remembering, with her down in her basement. And that was before my voice changed too. But eventually, I went to Kathy Ahern, who was kind of the voice person that partnered with Encore, the dance studio I was at. She like came in and like if people sang in the shows or whatever, she would like teach the choral parts or whatever like that on the little rinky-dinky keyboard over in the corner, and like all the any of the girls that like had solos in the songs or whatever took with Kathy Ahern. Right. So my mom was like, well, you must go to Kathy Ahern, you know? So I took with her, and she actually really got me through the transition of my voice, which was like singing wise, fairly seamless for me working with her, which was great. And I was able to kind of navigate that. But then eventually when I was in high school, I went to Jim Van Slyke, who's a dear friend to this day. Their entire family is amazing. And, but he helped me so much. And so I started working with him either just before high school or while I was in high school. And with that, I learned, I think I got, like a really good crash course in like similar to what I had gotten from many years of dance, which was like how to take care of your voice and how
Yeah.
to like build a song and everything like that. And I mean, it just invaluable kind of work to learn how to sing, because like in my mind, when I look at someone, or like when I'm trying to explain to someone, like, how do you teach someone to sing?
Yeah.
You know, especially when it's just someone that like can't sing. You're watching them and you're like, that's just, how do you just teach someone to sing? That's crazy.
And that was me. You know, I really could not sing, and
it's crazy because it's such an abstract idea, like singing. Like, how do you teach someone music?
Yeah.
You know, and that's why music teachers are saints that walk the earth.
Oh my gosh.
Because his wife is the choral director at one of the high schools, and I worked with her a bunch, and they're great. They're a very musical family. And so thank God for them. But learning how to sing was so important. But it's just like anything else. Like, to me, it still seems so abstract, even though I've like done all of the different steps and everything like that. But it's still just like crazy that, like, I don't know. That's a different topic, I guess. But you know, I learned all about like how the voice actually works.
Yeah.
And like different exercises to do, and what songs I should sing, and how to like build my book and things like that. I also sang in choir in high school, which was super helpful, and kind of like you were touching on with taking dance so much.
Mm-hmm.
I danced a bunch, and so for me, like something I really wanted to work on, or really kind of needed at the time, was vocal help.
Mm-hmm.
And simply just singing. I don't know what the schedule was for choir, but I sang every week, you know, in choir. I think I was probably a baritone then. Still riding the line. Back when I was like, no, I have a low voice. I don't sing high. And my voice teacher, Jim, was like, we'll make a tenor out of you soon enough, you know. But singing every day was super helpful, and I got so much out of choir. And again, similar to the dance, of like learning how to sing in a group.
Yes. And
you know, reading music. Oh my God, reading music, so important. Something that just like goes by the wayside, I think, in musical theater a lot of the time.
I agree.
Just because I don't know why, honestly.
I think it's because of the recordings. I think what happens is people learn music through listening to recordings. And that's certainly how I learn music.
Sure. And like, I think that has a place, but I mean, it's just. So I had a callback today, right? And yesterday, I found out I had to learn another song for the callback I had today. So there wasn't a complete recording of it. I had just, you know, the sheet music and, you know, the keyboard I have here. Now, luckily, like, I have a strong foundation in music, and I was able to plunk it out. And in doing so, I have a deeper understanding of the song because I was learning it myself. I understand the chord structures. I understand like the notes. I can like see it in my head, how the different sections are moving and the different movements and the verse and just I feel like I can get inside the music more because of my background, and it helps me memorize it so much quicker. Because in my head I can be like, oh, that's the A flat part, and then it like goes into this whole like crazy thing, and then and so in my head it's able to, I can like break it up so much more because I can analyze the music that I see. And I think, and honestly, and even if you aren't studying music theory or anything like that, just looking at music and singing all the time is so helpful. Yeah, because we had to sight sing in choir. We went to competitions, and then they would like give you like different sheet musics, and you were like in different levels, and everyone was like, oh god. It was like the most stressful part of the whole adjudication or whatever it was called. And you would just like sight read as a choir. You sight read. It was insane. And I just like, and it's stuff like that too, like being able to sight read music and sing in a group is another huge skill set that matches up with the entry level position in musical theater too. Agreed. Because you're going to sing in the ensemble when you go there, you know, and so you have to be able to blend, and you have to be able to sing harmonies and everything like that. So I would say, but yeah, between choir and Jim, my voice teacher, not PE. But that's what it sounded like. I learned an insane amount. Yeah. And really helped me propel me into the college audition season. And that's another thing Jim was super helpful with, was helping me package college audition songs because that's a nightmare, like we talked about last time.
It is a total nightmare.
What was your experience with voice?
So I started taking with the one teacher I said at the beginning. Took with her for a little while. Had a recital, sang Jason Mraz's "I'm Yours." Horrible.
Oh no!
I don't even know.
I need to see.
I don't even know if notes came out. Not quite sure. It was all a blur for me. I almost passed out.
Sounds about right. I passed out in plenty of my voice lessons.
And what happened is I started auditioning for the musicals at my high school. The first one we did was Thoroughly Modern Millie. And if anybody was anybody at school, you were taking voice lessons with Anna McNeely. Now, Anna McNeely is a angel. She is so great. She was in the original production of Cats. She was Jenny Annie Dots. She was also in the original company of B&B. She's full of life. Great teacher. I started taking with her. And I took with her for a while, actually. I took with her pretty much throughout the 4 years. However, I also took with another teacher named Billy Borovina. He was trained in opera here in Manhattan, and I went to him, and he kind of taught me the basics of opera. Now, opera is kind of like the ballet of singing, right?
This is good to hit on.
It teaches you how your voice works, what the different types of the voice are, the different levels, how you need to sing, the amount of weight and breath, and all these things that I really learned from Billy. Shout out to you, Billy, for listening to this. Thank you so much.
Billy.
He helped me get through my college auditions. He laid the tracks and everything. Fantastic. Learned so much from Billy. And then I also started taking with someone down in Jupiter named Craig Wick. Now, Craig had a different type of approach to singing, which helped me a lot. He studied the Alexander technique a lot.
Amazing.
So when I went in to start taking voice lessons with him, everything was about ease. And I never really thought of myself as a tenor, more of a baritone, I thought. Within 3 lessons with Billy, I was singing high C's because he was taking tension out of my voice and all these things, and it freed my voice to do all these crazy things. And we were singing, we were kind of learning arias and all these different things, and we were going through songs I'd learned before and revisiting them and doing different things. And Craig really helped with my voice as well right before I went off to college. And it was a combination, I think, of him, of Billy and Craig that really kind of gave me that foundation that I needed when I got into school. And then Marianne completely took my voice and took it to the next level. Because she was
amazing. Marianne,
incredible, like
just the best,
unbelievable. I could not. I mean, I could sing, but it wasn't very pleasant to listen to all the time. And that was just because I was young. I started singing very late. And it was also very hard for me because it was so foreign. Dance, I was very athletic. Yeah. So dance came easy to me, right? I was like, okay, I can work on this and do this. But singing was very, very difficult. I had a hard time really grasping it. Partially because I didn't play the piano. So it was a little foreign to me in that way. Partially because I wanted to be such a good singer that I kind of grew complexes around singing. Because I was around people who were just gifted,
I see that, yeah.
I
remember, I just remember, like, being in voice lessons, and, like, I think I just held such a high standard.
Me too.
For what a singer should sound like, or what at least I should sound like. And I think that's a testament to, like, my voice teacher, Jim, because he held me to such a high standard and forced me. It was, like, learning exactly what needs to happen and, like, where you went wrong and what worked and what didn't, and just like, and so like for me, I feel very similar that like, and it wasn't really until probably a week ago, that I'm still like very feeling comfortable as a singer.
Yeah.
Just because it's always been one of those things that's just, it feels like it's this, there is an ideal kind of perfection way to sing.
Right.
And like, I just feel like I'm always trying to like get there, and I don't know.
I mean, my voice also changed a lot throughout high school, where I was living, where my voice was, how my chords were vibrating, and whether they were thinner or thicker, depending on what I was singing and how I was singing, and all these things that you don't, you kind of, right? Because you're being educated, but you don't understand until you're in it. And you're doing it, when you get to college and you do it every single day, you're like, oh, all of this is starting to click. And sure, you do it when you're in high school and you take lessons every week and you're singing in your shows or choir or whatever. And I think choir would have been so beneficial for me.
Yeah.
That's something
I recommend
that I really,
to a lot of people.
I really wish I could have done. We just didn't really have. My high school, we had a choir, ? I don't really know, to be honest. If we did, there weren't very many kids. We had a great band program, but I'm not sure about choir. And, it was one of those things that I really needed, I think, that I didn't get. I needed that disciplined time, just like dance. I needed that time set aside every single day where all I do is focus on my voice. And I focus on singing, learning the notes, how to hit, and it's just something that I wasn't doing every day that I wish I was.
I think it's I think it's what's that 10,000 hour rule, right?
Right.
That's kind of silly, but it's just you have to do something a lot to be good at it, but then the next layer on top of that is to feel confident in it.
Right.
I think I was a good singer long before I knew I was a good singer. And I think that's just because I had to grow and get to a certain point where I became good, and then I had to be good for a certain period of time to be like, to understand it for myself, to be like, okay, I'm working at a level that is good.
Right.
There is no kind of this perfection idea that I was holding up above my head. I'm still striving to grow and do better, but I'm at a point where I'm singing well.
Right.
Because for the longest time I was like, I can't sing.
Right.
And I was singing just fine, but it's a confidence thing, and I think that comes with time.
I agree. I mean, sports always came so easy to me, and the arts have never come as easy to me as sports did. From age 2, I could hit a golf ball, and it was no problem for me. I could pick up any sport and automatically be competitive. But with theater and dance, it was something I really had to work at.
Well, it's compound interest.
Exactly.
You started earlier.
Exactly.
So you feel more comfortable with it.
Right. So, any time that I would, go to a singing lesson or something, it was uncharted territory for me. And if I wasn't immediately good at it right off the bat, I would get discouraged,
Oh, tell me about it.
And that's, if you're feeling discouraged, it is completely normal.
Absolutely.
Don't feel poorly. Everyone feels discouraged.
Absolutely. And especially when I really started getting serious about singing, which was around high school, that's such a tricky time because you're at a point where some people your age are really good and you want to be really good. And so if you're still just and there's just so much anxiety and that comes along with being
everyone
a high schooler.
Is on their own path.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot
so
compare yourself to everyone else around you who sings and dances. That's not what it's about. You put in the work, and you are always in competition with yourself.
Yeah. You just have to own the fact that you're a beginner, that you've just started. And
everyone starts.
Yeah. And I think the reason a lot of people that are older that start something new have trouble with it is because it's so much easier to judge yourself than when you're a kid. And it's not that they're older that they can't do something. It's the fact that they aren't in a state of flow and loving what they're doing because they're watching themselves do it from the outside. They're watching themselves sing. I remember I did that all the time. I was I'm watching myself sing.
I still do it.
Yeah, and so I'm not giving everything I have to just the music, so I'm not accelerating and growing as quickly.
Right.
When you're a kid and you do something when I started dancing, I just loved it.
Right.
I just danced because it was fun.
Right.
And that's why I've always just been so comfortable with dance. Is because I've just kind of always kept that mindset. And so my journey, kind of similar with singing, has just been I had to get to a point where for me now it's I have to be good at something to enjoy it. I don't like to play Fortnite because I'm so bad at it.
Right.
And so I don't play as much, so I never get better.
Right.
I never get past that hump. If we sat down and just played and played and played, and just got past the hump and we started to see results, then you start to feel good. And that's just a matter of it's just a matter of doing it,
Right.
The more you do something, the better you get at it. And so the more you enjoy it. And so the kids, it's the compound interest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. And it's difficult when you're in middle school and high school. There's a lot that you're dealing with. outside of the arts as well. With school and your schedule, high school schedules are crazy. You know, I was at school at 7:25 every morning, and I was at rehearsal till 10 to 11 at night. You know, I was doing homework.
insane.
When I would do homework. I wouldn't really do homework, but when I would, you know, I did homework, you know, you learn a lot about yourself in that time, about other people, about how you relate to these things that you love, and all that kind of stuff. And I think we should segue now into kind of our acting.
I agree. This is our last piece of the puzzle, I think.
Yeah.
We've talked about dance and singing, and then acting, which is probably even more so an abstract idea than teaching people how to sing, but like teaching them how to act.
Yeah. It was when I first started, I was very natural on stage just because I liked it. And I liked being goofy on stage.
Sure.
I really enjoyed being the center of attention in some way.
Yeah.
And I felt like at the beginning I was good at it. You know, I felt pretty confident in my acting abilities. Especially when I was younger in middle school through the start of high school. I felt pretty good about it. I felt like that was something I understood. Like I could look at something and know, oh, that's good and that's bad.
Sure.
To the extent of like, they could have done this differently.
Yeah.
They could have done that differently.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I didn't get a whole lot of acting training throughout my high school. Mainly because the acting classes that we had in my high school were a complete and utter joke. We did not learn one thing about acting.
Yeah.
We wrote scenes. The teacher was off in his room, and we would write scenes and we would perform them, and they were all terrible. You know, this is a saga for a different day. You know, and I had to go other places to get some acting training. I went to Atlantic Arts down in Jupiter. I don't know if they're around anymore. I felt like they went bankrupt. I'm not sure. I had a great teacher there. I went for a few weeks just for some monologue stuff, just because I was missing acting.
Sure.
But besides that, I didn't have a whole lot of acting training. Spectre taught me a lot about acting through dance and through different things. You know, and showing emotion and being able to connect to material was always somewhat natural for me, especially in the dance form. And he cultivated that to the extreme. You know, he'd say, hey, this was great. I could tell what you were doing here, but I need more. Like, I need you to think about this, or I need a little more of that. And, you know, when you're doing this section, really think about blah, you know, and those things really help me and propel me forward. So again, Spectre, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. But that was really my acting training. He stepped in as my acting coach and as well as my dance professor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like I think acting is so tough to teach, and certainly at like a high school level in like a classroom setting. So for me, I don't feel like I really got any real acting training until college in a classroom setting is what I'm talking about. Because it's, you have to like talk about such abstract concepts and things like that like until you're kind of at a collegiate level, it's hard to like think about all that stuff. You can like learn all like the basics of like objective, and well, I guess there's a lot more, but the way I learned all that stuff was through doing it. Yeah. Like was through like working on shows and working with directors and doing shows. Like I learned more from doing shows with Zoe Dillard, who's never my actual theater teacher, just because I did so many shows with her, like outside. I don't remember what the first show I did with her, but I remember the first like part that I got was in South Pacific. I played Lieutenant Buzz Adams, who has his one little scene in the second act where he comes in and he's like, there's this big part, like there's like this ship coming in or whatever it is. I don't remember what it is, but I remember I got the part. I'm so excited. And Mrs. Dillard, I have to call her Miss Dillard while we're talking about this because it's the only way, was directing it. And I learned so much from obviously doing that, but watching her work with the other people, because I would just like, it was like one of those summer programs. Right. And so they would just call everyone all the time, and, you know, everyone would just, like, sit around most of the time. And I would just, like, sit in the theater and, like, watch her work with actors on stage. And I just learned so much from just watching that. Yeah. And, like, being able to see what she wanted and see when it happened and understand like what worked on stage and what didn't. And I don't know if it's a quote or whatever, but it's, an actor has to be a director, and the director has to be an actor, to have like a successful kind of communication. And I think what Miss Dillard did, I have to call her Miss Dillard, but what Miss Dillard did she was so good at understanding like what the actors needed. And so like, yes, I think we talked about it last time. There are a lot of directors that are directors, right?
Yeah.
And they direct the show, and the shows are always fantastic because like they're well put together and everything like that. But as an actor, you don't necessarily get a lot out of that. You don't learn a lot, you don't grow a lot. But it's good because you have to learn how to be in those situations, because that's mostly what you're going to get in a professional setting.
Right.
Because the show has to be good.
Right.
It's not about you growing and learning anything like that. It's about the show being good, so you have to do your job. But when you get to the chance to work with a director that is conscientious of the actor and can direct in a way that helps you grow as an actor and as an artist, is incredible. And that's what Miss Dillard always did for me. And I worked with her a bunch, and it was just, every experience was great. I learned how to liberate my armpits. Now I'm sitting here with my arms above my head, because it was always just like, she said that all the time. People would get up on stage and they would sing their song or whatever and hold a mic. Like I remember we did Grease one time, and the guy comes in and he sings the first part, Grease is the word, and she would go into the back of the house. Let me paint a picture for you. Big red frizzy hair, crazy, just exactly what you would imagine a theater teacher to be, just the kindest, sweetest woman, and would just like run around the theater screaming, like different things. And she would just like be in the back of the house, be like, liberate your armpits, just like screaming. And he would be like, and he would just have to like lift up his armpits. And she made him like this was another experience. Like I was in the show this time, I wasn't watching the audience. I was watching from, slightly stage right, and I watched this kid get so much better, like just from doing these little things that like made sense to him, that also made the show better. And it was just such an amazing experience. So much of my acting training prior to college was all through just doing shows.
Yeah. I have to backtrack a little bit because I did do 2 summer programs in which I learned a lot about acting. I did it was called Beginnings Workshop. I did that, and I had some fantastic acting teachers there, and it was very Beginnings Workshop specifically was very like artsy fartsy, like we would sit down and stare in people's eyes for 20 minutes. It was very weird. If you've ever done that with a stranger, you both end up crying for a very strange reason. The big thing that they were teaching is that eyes are the gateway to the soul, and all of these things that I still remember to this day, but I didn't necessarily understand their full potential yet. There was something blocking me from really learning all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I also did Stage Door Manor. Shout out to anybody listening to this who's a Stage Door alum.
Sure.
I did, we had to audition for these different classes. They were kind of like the high-level classes, right? I think it was called Master Dance and Master Acting, or it was something along those lines. I got into both Master Dance and Master Acting, and at the time I took Master Acting because that's where I felt I really wanted to focus my time. And I had an amazing teacher there, and we did some really, really great exercises to help ground us and dive into material and all of these awesome things. So I do have to mention those things as well. I did get acting outside of my high school, but I had to go other places to get it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of kids end up having to go other places to get it.
Sure.
So don't be afraid to
Yeah.
do it. It's fun. Take a leap. I mean, I live with strangers, people I didn't know, and during high school, we roomed together and just dove into acting and singing and dancing.
And I feel like acting training is one of those things that like can just be done anywhere in any circumstances, because a lot of the times acting is just people watching and like gathering.
Yes.
You like see someone on the street and they do this funny thing and you're like, oh, that's a character.
Right.
That's someone, and you put that in your pocket, and then you're walking along and someone talks in a funny way and you're like, oh, that's a character. And you put that in your pocket,
Yes.
and you just collect things. And I think, and this kind of goes back to the kids that are the spontaneous ones that like go out and make these crazy choices or whatever. These are the people that like are engaging with life.
Yes.
And those are the people I think that are so compelling to watch on stage, because we're watching them engage with life.
Right.
They're engaging with the material, and they're doing something on stage, and you're watching them, and it's mind blowing because they're connecting with other people, they're connecting with you, they're connecting with the space, and they are connected, and they are connecting with all the other people and things around them, and it's so compelling to watch on stage because, well, I don't know why. That's a whole other podcast, like why we watch theater, but it's you when you go to see theater, you want to watch something happen,
Right.
and you want to feel something, and that's
And you want to be a part of it. In a strange
Exactly.
way, you want to be a part of it. You want to see that journey. You want to see that emotion. You want to feel it.
You want to relate to a character. You want to be like, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's my friend. Oh my God, that's this person, And so when you're acting training, which is so hard because, yes, you do all the technical stuff, like what's your objective and like who you're talking to, what do you want, Nathan Hurwitz, and, like hear the beats in the scene. You learn terms and stuff like that, how to analyze a script and how to build a character. And, you do movement work and vocal work and things like that. And those are all structural things that, give you a sense of structure. Did I say that's all structural things that give you a sense of structure?
Yes.
Well, structure. Those, and they do. They provide, a sense of flow and character arc and things like that are really important. But at the end of the day, especially when you're like a young kid, the thing that you want to try and grab onto is just engaging and connecting, with the text. You can, when you see these imaginary kids that I'm putting on a panel here,
Right.
are like the kids that are making these big, bold choices that maybe could have little to no training, but that are just engaging with the text and making a choice and living and liberating their armpits, are the ones you'd be, oh, they have so much potential.
Right.
Because all the structural stuff like character arc and script analysis and things like that can be taught, right? But at the end of the day, that's why I was saying it's so hard to teach acting, simply because it's about you. It's about being you. You have to be who you are first, so that you can be yourself on stage in a weird way, and
Through
play a character. Yeah. That's why, and like a lot of really great actors have taken little to no acting training, and they learn a lot of that on the job, and a lot of times they get to work with great directors and everything like that. But it's but they just have a knack for it because they're just naturally those people that are engaging and connected and just living, you know?
There's no sense of judging themselves. They just they go for it.
They're kids.
Yeah, that's why you got to stay a kid. You got to stay young, and especially that is why actors are such interesting creatures, is because a lot of the time you meet someone and they are unapologetically themselves.
Yeah.
24/7.
It's crazy.
This is who I am, and this is what I do, and this is how I do it, and if you don't like me, hopefully you do, but if you don't,
Yeah, and I think that's the fine line with musical theater too, because you could go out to probably L.A. and more so and find the majority of people are more like that. They're like the crazy wild people, and certainly in New York you have that. But with musical theater, it's so tricky because you're riding the line of the people that are like the dancer kind of singer track of like the very disciplined, like learning all of their material. They work with the group well, but they're quiet and reserved, right? They're like great work ethic. And then on the flip side of that, you have like the kind of crazy spontaneous side. You've got the right brain and the left brain, essentially.
Right.
And what's so tricky about musical theater is you have to combine the two.
Yes.
Because you have to be able to make those crazy bold choices, but you have to be able to do it on two, stage right.
Yep.
And so I think the people that are successful, again, it's a versatility thing, but that understand their role, that they have to do these crazy things and they have to live and they have to do all those things that are acting and making big, bold choices so that they're compelling on stage, but they have to understand how they fit into the crazy cogs and machinery that is a musical.
Yes.
You have to dance and you have to sing, so you have to hit all the notes. It's a grid, It's a massive grid, and all these different pieces are flowing in and out, and you have to
marry
you can't just
everything. Everything has to come together and work.
Yeah.
And that's what makes musical
can't do one or
theater
the other, yeah.
so amazing.
So great, yeah, because you get all the crazy art, and it looks like chaos on stage, but it's math.
Yep.
It's math,
Exactly.
And I think having a background in both of those, and that's why it's so important to study, obviously, all three of those categories, not because you have to do them in musical theater, which is obviously the main reason, but because they ground you in a sense of how the process works. You know,
they teach you different things about life as well.
Yes,
as we
absolutely.
said before, dance, discipline, acting, being yourself, singing, music, connecting in a different way.
All these different things, and it's about, again, versatility and just perspective. I think perspective is a good way to put it.
True.
Because when you're an actor, a lot of times you want to be an actor. But when you're an actor, a lot of times you have to be a director.
Yes.
You have to see the full picture. You have to see what's happening. You're like, okay, well, I can't obviously do jumping jacks on the bar, even though they said make a bold choice, because that's clearly distracting from the scene downstage. You know?
They always say you need to be a good actor, you have to be a good director. And to be a good director, you got to be a good actor. Because you have to see it both ways.
Absolutely. So I think overall the main thing is
dive in,
learn a lot. I mean, musical theater is one of those things that obviously is ever growing, as we're seeing right now in 2018. It's always changing. So but the foundation of it is always going to be in, acting, singing, and dancing, but discipline and bold choices and trying to marry those two very juxtaposed ideas.
And don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Don't prevent yourself from taking an acting lesson, a dance lesson, just because you feel like you're not good at it.
Always
At
go
some
for
point, everyone's not good at it.
Yeah.
And you just have to work at it. It's something you have to work at. I see a lot of people that are like, I'd love to do musical theater, but I can't sing. And it's like, learn. Take it.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you don't understand. I really can't sing. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I really couldn't sing either.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? Like, I completely understand. I couldn't match pitch. I couldn't do all these things. You just work and work and work.
Yeah, so for all the people or kids out there, I don't know what kids are listening to this, but if you are, dive in even more. Double down on the things you're doing. If you really want to do it, it's totally possible, It's just a lot of work, and be able to dive into all three of those areas as quickly and as fully as possible, And for the people that are doing it right now, think back on the training that you had and maybe look back and be like, maybe I could use more of this, or, oh, wow, I'm much further along in this avenue than I think I am. Maybe I need to supplement it with its counterpart,
right?
And
trust yourself.
Yeah. It's all just singing and dancing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, we're just having fun.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks so much for listening to this, guys. This has been a lot of fun. We covered a lot of material.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Let us know if you have any interesting stories about how you got started in the arts, or any form, dance, singing, acting, and what you loved about it, and how it's impacted your life today. And we look forward to hearing more from you guys, and we can't wait to keep sharing more.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So make sure to like, subscribe, turn on alerts, make sure you get all the notifications on when the next podcast is coming up. Otherwise, we will see you next time.